We see it almost every day, right? Drivers ignoring the rules of the road, whether it's driving through a bus stop, speeding, simply forgetting to give a pedestrian the right of way. Violating the rules of the road can cost you, from tickets to fender benders, car repairs. It's really a headache you do not want to have. For the next 15 minutes or so, Officer Thomas Fetzer with the Greensboro Police Department will be answering your questions about what you should do and not do while you're on the road. Here's how you get your question to him. It is 336-379-5775. You text in your question. It's anonymous, and you get your question answered in real time. So thank you for joining us for Rules of the Road. All right. I know school has been back for a while, but that doesn't mean that all folks are doing what they should. Let's talk school zones.
That is correct, Tanya. So we're still seeing several drivers speeding through school zones, and the school zone speeds are set for a reason, for safety for the children and pedestrians in and around school zones. And not only is it a safety issue, but for a driver to be cited for speeding in a school zone, that is a $438 fine in the state of North Carolina.
Ouch! Yeah, you don't want it.
It's quite expensive if you are cited for that.
Right, and we don't even want to talk about the thought that you might actually hit a kid or something of that nature. So, all right, so every now and then police departments, they have to block roads due to an emergency, something went wrong, a light's not working, whatever. How are we supposed to navigate around this?
So, this is actually something that I found surprising when I became a police officer is people not knowing what to do when they approach a road closure. When they see orange cones out, a lot of people, they don't understand that means the road is closed or the traffic is diverted in another direction. And a lot of people try to actually drive through the cones or around the cones. So, if you're approaching as a driver, if you're approaching a road closure and there are cones out and a police car with lights on, that means you cannot go that way. You have to find another direction. So I've had people drive around cones, drive around my car. Also, people try to stop and ask me for directions, or they try to tell me they need to go that way. Which way can they go? And as a police officer directing traffic, I'm just trying to keep the flow of traffic moving. I don't have time to stop and answer questions for somebody in the middle of the road. So if you're approaching a closure, just find another route to get to where you need to get to.
Yeah, maybe pull off on the side of the road somewhere, figure it out on maps and that kind of stuff. That way you don't have to feel like you don't know where you're going. All right. If a driver's in an accident, so many of us have gotten in these, like a fender bender of some sort, what's the first thing we should do? And then what's the rest of the process?
So if you're in a fender bender with just a minor accident and there's no injuries, then, we encourage everybody to try to, if the vehicles are drivable, to try to move the vehicles out of the roadway, whether it be a highway or just a inside the city street, like an intersection. Try to move the vehicles off to the side of the road, because essentially what happens is that if your vehicles are still in the road, cars are slowing down and stopping behind you, and then there may be another wreck as a result of that. So try to move the vehicles out of the road. It's safer for you, it's safer for the other drivers. And then if it's something that you think the police need to be involved with, then call police and we'll respond.
I know I always get to the thing of, they always say, just exchange like phone numbers and that kind of stuff. But I'm always like, I'd rather actually have it on documentation somewhere, because what somebody tells you isn't always right.
That's a very valid point. So, if a police officer shows up and all the drivers that are involved are providing the information, such as a driver's license, you can confirm, a police officer can confirm, the correct address, correct phone numbers. They can confirm if they actually have insurance or not. Whereas if you don't call police and you just try to facilitate that amongst yourselves and just exchange information, you're not sure if what the information the other driver is giving you is 100% accurate.
And I know by law drivers have to have insurance, but it happens that sometimes you get into a fender bender with someone who doesn't have insurance. Then what happens to you, the driver that does have insurance?
So if you, the driver, are a victim of that the other driver doesn't have insurance, and you don't carry an uninsured motorist on your policy, then your insurance is probably not going to cover your damages. So in a situation like that, I would highly recommend that people do carry that as it's kind of an additional thing on their policy, but to carry the uninsured motorist just in case, because there are people out here they'll allow their insurance to lapse, and now they're out driving around with no insurance.
Gotcha. Okay. So know what is on your insurance. And if you got questions, call your insurance agent, go through the list and say, you know, what does this mean? What does this mean? And what happens if this happens in this case of scenario? So, all right, what we want you to do is text in your questions. The number there down on the screen, 336-379-5775. We'll be right back.